Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision. Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision.
And shalom to all of you. We're glad to have you here today, with this being the day that Yahweh our Elohim has made. It is our will to rejoice and be glad in it, hoping that you are finding grace and peace and strength with Yahweh, who is your Elohim, bringing you into a space and a place that we can understand his purpose for our lives. This is not an average room. This is a room for those who are believing and of this faith and of this system. This is a family ride, a family meet, and we are here as citizens in his kingdom. Anyone and everyone in this particular room must accept the microphone coming up. If you do not accept the microphone to come up, we will, unfortunately, due to the nature and the severity and the holiness of this session, have to escort you from the room. So we're going to ask you now to please comply. If no compliance, we'll have to escort you and have a great day. So thank you again. If you don't know what this is about, we're going to ask you to wait until we teach about it in the weeks. But if it is something that you'd be interested in and you believe that you understand it, you are more than welcome to be here. We want you to be here. So we're asking you to accept. For those of you on Facebook and on YouTube, as you know, this is a high holy day. This is not an event of a church. This is not for church people. This is for those who are saved, want to see the kingdom, understand the kingdom, and we are here for the purpose of honoring the Torah. If that is not your goal, please continue moving forward. We have had a wonderful time of what we do here, and Yahweh has been glorified in many ways, and our lives thereby the same for that purpose. Well, keep in mind what we do and who you are and why we do it, so that you can see and be glorified in him this day. All right. So we want to take this time to pray and give Yahweh the praise for his name. Father, we thank you for your grace, your spirit, your purpose, your plan. We ask you to be with us, in us, through us, and toward us for your name's sake and praise. You are glorious, you are holy, and you are righteous. We magnify you now that your purpose and plan for our lives will be made evident and sincere. You grace us with things that we can't even begin to understand. And we're asking you now that all things you become a reality for us. We need them. We need you. Because of who you are and why you are in this time, we bless your name. Wonders and your glory are what your word create for us. We ask this of you, knowing that you hear and answer our legitimate prayer. You alone are righteous, and you alone are holy. So we ask you now to guide us in your word. Show us so we can see. Teach us and we will learn. Speak to us and we will hear. We ask this of you in the precious name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And these your people, we come, bow before you in reverence of you, and ask you now to grace us as only you can do. We do trust you, we do bless you, and we do exalt you. We do take the time, Father, to bring your name before all men. We might know you in your spirit and in your truth. There is none like you in all the earth. Our minds and our hearts crave for you. We desire you. We seek you, and we look forward to the times of being with you. This is our earnest prayer. You alone are holy. You alone are righteous. You alone are our Elohim. This we pray, that your name be exalted in the earth above all names. In the mighty and precious name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we all pray and we say, Amen. All right, everyone, we're so glad to be with you today. Hoping that you are here ready to serve and honor him in the way that he has required of us. We have been holding out West Coast for you to bring the last parts of this particular message to you all with regards to Yom Ha Bikkurim. And so as we prepare our hearts to move closer into the written, to the word, we know that we are here for purpose. We have come through and are at the almost the midway point of Pesach. Pesach consists of 3 different particular times. It consists of the death of our Savior, incorporating the burial, and then the resurrection of our Savior. It also incorporates a week-long time of eating a changed diet of both mind and physicality, i.e. the unleavened bread, getting the chametz, getting the leaven out of your lives. This is what we do. This is why we're here, and we want to comply and bring all things into his order and to his plans for our very lives. Let's talk now about what the word of Elohim requires of us as we move closer and purer into his space and into his way. 2 things we want to remember is that you are in the time that is a season of healing, a season of restoration, a season of reclamation, and a season and a time where Yahweh causes you to sow, and by sowing, you then receive harvest. The harvest is interesting because as long as the earth remains, there will always be seed time and harvest. But the seeding is not always about finances. It's not always about money. It's not always about what we think because of our mindsets within Christendom. It is about the things of him that put us in a position to know how his current works, that we might have currency in him. So tonight, as we bless Yahweh for who he is and why he is, we look for you to understand that we are here completing the feast season of Pesach. Look closely as we prepare our hearts for these truths. We have given our lamb for the season of Pesach Nisan the 14th. It was upon us. On the 14th, our Savior died. We ate the meal of Pesach. On the 14th and then the 15th of Nisan, which were yesterday, and those of you who have come out in this sundown of that time of the 15th, you are now entering into the 16th of Nisan, which happens to be April 6th at sundown. So on the 15th, you came to begin Hakat Matzah. Now as well, you are in the next day, which is the 16th, and that is the Chag Bikkurim, yet another feast of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Here now, Zion, as we bring ourselves in compliance and alignment with his word, his will, and his plan. Welcome to the feast season of Yom Bikkurim. Yahweh be praised for all things that he has put forward, and let us now get into the depth of why this particular commandment affects our lives so drastically and so dynamically. Look now as we prepare our hearts into the books of Leviticus, chapter and number 23. The Bible lets us know very clearly that Yahweh had a plan from the beginning. He gave us what we needed to know and what we needed to understand. He did leave it for us to see how Messiah carried it out, so we would all have the ability to function in it rightly. These things are extremely important because of how Yahweh puts things together. Now, I want you to grab the Bibles and go with me to Leviticus chapter number 23. Very important passage of the writ as we bring ourselves into compliance and clarity. Leviticus 23, Vayikra, verse 1. Yahweh spake unto Moshe and told him, tell the children of Israel concerning the feasts of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. These are my feasts. Verse 4 says, these are the feasts of Yahweh, even the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Pesach. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And in the first day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. You shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day is an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, tell the children of Israel, when you come into the land which I give unto you, and you shall reap the harvest in that land, therefore then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it, and you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf an he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahweh. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of an hin. And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor ears green, until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto Yahweh. It is, and shall be, a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, even 7 Shabbats shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Shabbat shall you number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh. And you shall offer the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, 1 young bullock, 2 rams, and they shall be for burnt offerings unto Yahweh, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before Yahweh with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priests. And you shall proclaim on that selfsame day that it may be made an holy convocation of Kodesh Mikra unto you, and you shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of your field. When you when you reapest, neither shall you gather any gleaning of your harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and to the stranger, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. Verse 23 says, he spoke to the children of Israel, and then they talked about the fall feasts. Now, as we go through all of this that we have learned and read over all these months and weeks, and will continue to do every single solitary year of our lives, we have come to the place of what Yahweh has called the feast called Yom Bikkurim. Now, you see it as Hag Bikkurim, but it is literally Yom Bikkurim, for it is the day of the first fruits. This is when, in fact, you will bring a lamb. You will bring both your fine flour, fine oil, and fine wine. And in that day, you will offer that with the lamb that Yahweh has recommended. This is the day again of Yom Bikkurim. Now, on the board, if you're not watching, for those of you who are in the room and in the space, we will be sending down invitations to everyone, whoever is down in the lower places, to come up. If you do not accept the invitation to come up, we will have to escort you from the room. Now, also for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, we need to make sure that you are compliant or are attention and paying attention as well. On the board, for those of you on Clubhouse, you might want to go ahead and look onto the Facebook page or the YouTube page to see what we'll be doing for tonight. I've got a little bit of tracking to do, but I want to make sure the housekeeping is done and handled presently. With that, what we mean is that we are here to render our first fruits offering. In that process of the Moedim, we will read the writ to understand why these things are so and allow for Ruach HaKodesh and Adonai to explain to us in grave detail why these things are significant. Now, many people just think it's another church event because we found some newfangled thing to do in Christendom. But Yahweh wants us to know very clearly, this is a command that affects his kingdom's viewpoint, outlook, and his kingdom's functionality. So let's begin. If you look on the board, as I've given you today from the time here, that there is a word here, Yom Bikkurim. You've always heard us talk about Ha Bikkurim, but Ha Bikkurim is actually the feast. So as we look at what these things are, Yom, if you look beneath, under it is the word day. Ha Bikkurim, underneath of it, is the the phrase of first fruits. Now, Yom and Hag both become prefix for Hag Bikkurim. But Hag is the word for feast. Yom is the word for day. Now, what is significant about this is that we are in a time that is a day of Yahweh. And the day is for first fruits. Now, how does that work for us? Why is that significant? Well, in the beginning of what we do, and I want you to catch this, you must realize we'll be rereading these passages for clarity's sake. The days of first fruits. See, this day follows the first day of unleavened bread. That was yesterday on the 15th. And also, the days of first fruits are called Rashit HaKatzir. Now, I want to give you this so that you grab this and don't think you're going to just have to learn it today. But the phraseology is very important because it speaks Rashit HaKatzir. It means the first of the harvest. Now, many of you know that this is the first of the barley harvest. And it also means later on the first of the wheat harvest. So the first fruits bring us to a place of comprehension. So the words here, Rashit HaKatzir, in the times of old, on this particular day, the children of Israel was instructed to bring a sheaf of the omer, a sheaf of the harvest. Now, a sheaf is the word for omer. I want to make you aware of the verbiage while we read this, sort of kind of like from Leviticus 23, 9 and 12. Now, we'll be very specific with it. We'll be very clear so you can get this and we can move on. But there are some key pieces to grasp from here. Now, what Yahweh does is very clean. He says, you shall render the sheaf of the omer of the barley. In verse 9, he says, Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, tell the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you come into the land that I will give you, and reap its harvest, I'm giving you this land, you shall bring the sheaf. Sheaf means omer. Omer is a weight. It is a measuring mechanism. You shall bring me the sheaf of the first. First means rashit. Rashit means first. Of your harvest. Harvest means katsir. All right. So you will bring me the omer of the Rashid's Katsir, and you'll bring it to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh so that it may be accepted for you. Now, I like the way the translation I have on the board says it. You shall bring the sheaf, the Omar, of the Rashid's of your Katsir to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh so that you may be accepted. Now, what is the imperative here? What is the point, and why is this driven home this way? Because Yahweh has given us his instructions. He wants us to adhere to everything that he has made mention of, and for doing this, he then rewards us because he lives in an if-then concept. So again, I want to reread this, and don't think I'm redundant, just being redundant. I'm being redundant for a reason. Pay attention. In this time, Yeshua is in the earth, or the process of the first fruits is because the barley harvest has to cover the ground of the winter from the Sukkah, the fall feast. Once they've had the fall feast and they've gathered the ingathering, which is a product and a result of the summer feast called Shavuot, which is a seeding time and a harvesting time, which is immediately impacted by the actual first feast season of the spring called Pesach, which you and I are presently in. But this first fruits seeding is what causes our summer feast to have its means and its meat to carry us into the summer and bring us to a place of a bountiful ingathering in the fall. Now, once they've gathered in the fall, the winter months kick in. Well, the ground now becomes less manageable. It becomes hardened. The ground becomes difficult. You need a very strong and hardy actual type of vegetation to grow through that to keep the ground functional in the winter months. You will find out that we call the barley harvest a very hardy, strong, enduring, processing type of harvest. The barley harvest is extremely important to understand because until the barley comes out in the spring, the wheat can't go in. But if the barley is not in the winter months, the wheat will have a difficult time getting to its timelines for summer harvest and summer manifestation. Well, let's look at this in a different light that many have not considered. Yeshua HaMashiach is the barley. You and I are the wheat. So when you and I, in order for us to prosper, something has to keep the ground that can take us and consume us in a pliable and functional condition that we can produce what Yahweh intended. Many people don't realize, but Yeshua was as hardy as you're going to get. See, when you put the barley in the ground during the winter months causes the ground to get cold. Sometimes they are lacking of water. They may freeze, so they contract. Any type of vegetation or fruit that's trying to grow in that is going to have a difficult time unless it's made for that climate. Most fruit is not. Most wheat, most vegetation is not. That's why even for me living near the on the peninsula that I live on, when there is a 32-degree day, that's a day where there is a frost alert. And a frost alert can kill the harvest of oranges and pears and apples and strawberries and whatever else there is. And that cold can do major damage to the profitability of that work. So the barley can actually withstand a good frostbite. It can withstand anything that's not going to be too elongated, but that might have a little bit of need for the product to endure. Well, let's look at our barley, who set the ground for us. He endured quite a bit. Let's look here at Isaiah chapter 53. And we've been reading from it all week, and I'm trying to keep it in your hearing so you'll be able to catch these nuances as they come. Verse 1, who hath believed our report, and to whom shall the arm of Yahweh be revealed? For he grew up before him as a tender plant. There you go. Somebody shout barley. Come off mic and shout barley.
Barley. Barley. Barley.
Now, I'm sending microphones down to all of you. Please accept the microphones and come up. If you do not accept the microphones and come up, I will escort you from the room personally. No one gets put out of here but by me. And if I put you out, I know who you are and I know why I did it. So I'm asking you to comply. All right? Thank you so very much. Now, we just said barley. Verse 2 says, he shall grow up before him as a tender plant. Who is him? Israel. Israel is him, but who shall grow up before him? Well, that will be Yeshua. And he shall grow as a root out of a dry ground. The root is Yeshua. I am the vine. My father is a husbandman. Where did the root grow? Out of a dry land. Well, that would be Israel without Yahweh's words as their guide. Verse 2 continues to say, he hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Barley wheat is not a pretty. Barley is not a pretty. It's pretty in its own right, but it's not something that you would desire. It is something that you tolerate so you can have grain to survive during the cold months, during the lean months, during the dry months. And this way you have at least grain to make bread and grain to make what you need. Verse 3 says, he is despised and rejected of men. There you have it. Man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised and esteemed him not. He bore our griefs, carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was on him, and with his stripes we are healed. Does that sound like someone who has endured a great deal under some difficult times, even in dry ground? Yeshua typifies the barley. Now, his typifying of the barley begins to put us in a position where we reap the benefits of him carrying the burden of holding the ground so that it would not become fallow. Oh, I give him rejoice right now with that. So watch this close as we move on to the next piece of this. Now, when we realize that Yahweh has a plan, and his plan was very specific, had very intentional purpose, had very strict intentions to bring us to a place of comprehension. He says, the barley crop would be the first crop for the spring. Once you pull that crop out the ground, Yahweh, because of what you did in Sukkah, promised to bring you rain in the first month. So you pull that barley harvest in the first month, making way for the new seed you plant for the summer and for the Feast of Ingathering, months and months away. So Yeshua represents a lot more than we first thought. Let's look clearly at these next pieces. In this pulling of the barley, the first grain crop that ripens, they would wave this before Yahweh in this prescribed ceremony to mark the start of the counting of the omers. Thereby, this would initiate the 49-day countdown to the Jubilee harvest. Well, that's an interesting thing because the festival, the Feast of Shavuot, was exactly 50 days away. Now, I want you to follow these things in a very clear way. When Messiah, and I'm going to do this on the board so you can see this and have no doubt of what we mean. This will appear to be a little bit unorthodox. I do not permit or I do not recommend any leaders who are not well equipped enough to take this levity that I'm going to take. Just because you see it doesn't mean you'll be able to explain it in a way that will actually bring conversion. But Messiah is the barley. What does that mean? Well, before Messiah, the cross, we've come through some rough times because of Adam selling us into sin. So Messiah, who is the actual, don't laugh at my stick, man, y'all. I keep telling y'all, don't do it. Messiah is come before, and by the time we get to Pesach, which is the 14th of Nisan, our Savior hits that feast season. The feast season was designed so that you and I would have the benefit that Yahweh intended from the beginning. So we're going to call this Pesach. With Pesach, you then enter into what we call Hag HaMatzah. And then from Hag HaMatzah, you enter into Hag Bikkurim. Okay? Once this is done, you understand what Yahweh is trying to accomplish. I know you think that I'm just meandering along, but just stick close for a second. Messiah comes in Pesach. Messiah is, in fact, our barley. He's done all those things that require endurance that you and I can't do. He became our intercessor. And inside of him, Yahweh put this word and this seed. So Messiah, because he put the word in our hearts and in our head, right? So that red represents the seed of Elohim, the word of Elohim inside of him. But he is also a seed for all them who came before him. So now all that took place from Sukkah, his birth, until now, his death required, there is him becoming a seed. So while he becomes the seed, planted down in the ground, does his death, he is then resurrected in Hag Bikkurim. But it was interesting because he, in fact, was both the fruit and the seed that would be our sustenance forever. This is a spiritual. We'll make the parallels for the natural in a few moments. In Pesach, he dies. He is then put into the ground. He's in the ground for 3 days. In Pesach, he goes in, he dies. In Hag HaMatzah, he's there. And in Hag Bikkurim, he's there. 1, 2, 3. The death, the burial, the resurrection, the 3 days he would be in the belly of the earth, just as prophesied. The interesting thing about where we go from Bikkurim Yom to Hag Bikkurim, where the feast is of Yahweh, we'll find this piece. I gotta make more room on my board. So just give me a second to make this make a little bit more sense and space it better for you all. Can I have that permission? Because I want to give it to you right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Messiah again. That's a terrible stick, man, but it's going to work. Okay? He comes in Pesach. Then we have Hag HaMatzah. That's the 15th. He's in the grave. Then we have Hag Bikkurim. And after Hag Bikkurim, there is 50 days after that for Hag Bikkurim. Okay? Now, Messiah again is the first fruits. But before he becomes the first fruits, he must also become the first fruits of them that were before him. From the times of Moshe, Adam, Abraham, he went through the barley, he went through the heart, he kept the dirt, everything functional for us who would come later. Reminding you that these are actual ordinances of Yahweh. Very important to keep in mind. So Messiah dies in Pesach. Messiah is both the lamb in his death. He is both the unleavened bread in his death, and of course, his blood is the wine in his death. Okay? These are three very significant things. When he dies, he then rises again in that third day. When he rises again, you must realize he's been used as fruit. What is in him now is placed back in the ground, and we call his burial the sepulcher. It looks like the ovens that they would cook in. They would make rock or ovens out of clefts, ovens out of caves, because the stone would be a great conductor for heat. So the sepulchers and the ovens looked much alike. So technically having him into that grave, that sepulcher, was bringing the bread of life to well done status. And then we now call him the bread of life. So he was the lamb. We ate his blood. We ate his flesh. And then he became the actual bread of life. And we're eating on that now. And for the next 7 days, you're going to continue to eat on that diet. No chametz, no leaven, no pride, nothing to pump you up and then, or hype you up or gas you up or make you feel like you're more than you are and cause you to err in your ways of keeping his faith. And then there is the wine. Of course, you know that is the blood and its type that cleanses us from all sin. So all of this is uniquely done by Yahweh. Then we find in the passages of his word, when you really take a close look, that he does something interesting. When this day of Ha Bikkurim starts, it starts a countdown for a time to bring seed to harvest. It's a time to bring seed to harvest. So from Ha Bikkurim, from the 16th of Nisan till the 6th of Sivan, which is Ha Bikkurim, Yom Bikkurim becomes the seed for Ha Bikkurim. I want to give you this imagery on the board, and I want you to remember this. Don't lose it. Yom Bikkurim leads up to Ha Bikkurim. The day of first fruits leads up to the feast of first fruits, because the day becomes a seed that gives us the harvest that makes the feast. Do y'all get that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so now because Messiah comes before us, and yet he came on behalf of all them that died in righteousness, he is the fruit of their seed. But he now, in turn, once he goes in the grave, he now becomes our seed for resurrection. Our seed, and then he becomes the first fruit. So he goes in, except the kernel wheat abides in the ground alone. He then becomes our first fruit. He resurrects. That's our first fruits. Let's now walk to this next portion. On the day that the priest would have to wave the omer, the sheaf of this green barley, of the new harvest before Yahweh, he would wave it to the north, to the south, to the east, and then to the west. It would be a symbolic gesture of dedicating it to Yahweh. A male lamb was then sacrificed as a burnt offering unto Yahweh, along with unleavened bread that was mixed with oil. And there would be wine. Now, I want y'all to catch this. So Leviticus chapter 23, verse 13, makes this very clear point. I share the screen with you now. Leviticus 23:13. Watch this. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil. It'll be an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And a drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the fourth part of a hin. Now, here is what got me and keeps me completely enamored with this process. On this day, just like on Pesach, Yeshua was a perfect lamb. I need y'all to get ready to talk to me for a couple of seconds. So get to your microphones. Was not Yeshua the perfect lamb?
Yes, sir. Yes, you were.
Was he not noted as also the bread of life?
Yes,
So he was the unleavened bread in the Pesach meal, and he was the wine, right? The blood that came from the lamb, right? Yahweh wants us to get this so badly that he made these things happen so we would know that the seed was Messiah, the resurrection was Messiah, and the Lord of the harvest would also be connected to Yahweh, who is, in fact, in Messiah, the Adonai. Watch. Now that we go to Ha Bikkurim in Leviticus 23:13, he says that only after they wave the offering and it was performed that they could even begin to use the crop. But what I found very interesting was that it took a defect-free male lamb to be offered with bread and wine. In Ha Bikkurim, they were to also bring a lamb. Your first fruits offering is a lamb. And then it's supposed to have fine flour and oil. Is that right? Is that what we're supposed to do?
Yes.
Bring oil and fine flour, right? And then we're supposed to bring some wine. Would that be correct? My writing is horrible. I am spent. I will tell you right now how tired I am, but I'm not going to do it. I want y'all to know this matters to me to teach y'all this. So there had to be a perfect lamb for for Ha Bikkurim. There had to be oil, and there had to be flour, and there had to be wine. Fine wine, right? So 1, 2, and 3. So he who resurrected here is proven to be the same because of the ingredients. Now, here was an issue that I want to make sure I talk to you about before we finish first fruits. Does anybody remember when our Savior was crucified? Talk to me. Does anyone remember when our Savior was crucified?
Yeah. Yes.
You do?
Yes, we do.
In the meal of Pesach, when he sat with his disciples, what did he pull from the table and tell them that they needed to do to remember his death and his burial? When he stopped eating, what did he pick up?
The bread.
He picked up the bread, right?
Right.
And he said, this you eat from this plate, right? Pesach's plate, right? Then he picks up in the New Testament the glass, which is filled with the wine. And he says, drink this, drink it all. What blew my mind, keeps my hair constantly growing to where I got to shave, is these beautiful nuances that Yahweh puts inside of these passages. Now, look at the board. they must have a lamb. Yeshua picked up because he was the lamb and he ate the lamb. He then had to have bread. Well, how do you make bread, y'all? Especially unleavened bread. All you need is oil and flour. And then they had all of them had the wine. Yahweh tried to make sure we understood that there could be no confusion that he who was our seed, he who was our fruit, he who was our first fruit was also our seed. And when he became the first fruits, you could point right back to what seeded him. Everything here is everything risen there. And it was everything that died and ate that lamb in the day of Pesach, manifesting the son's feast. That is uncanny.
Amen.
And you can't walk away from that. See, because we got twisted in the fact that, oh, he wanted some oil, he wanted some flour, and he wanted some wine. Well, the bread is what he had here, same exact thing, because you need the oil and the flour to make the bread. The wine is quite frank. The lamb is quite simple. But the point was, this is the same. So no other faith, no other antagonisms about the things of Elohim could be misconstrued in this time of first fruits. Now, why is that important? When Messiah goes into the grave and he resurrects on the third day, there was someone at the tomb named Miriam. So if Messiah at Pesach is the seed that went into the ground, and then his resurrection is the first fruits of that seed, somebody say Messiah is that fruit. Say it. Say Messiah is that fruit. Now, how do you get the seed out of the fruit? You got to use it for what you planted it for, right?
Correct. Yes, right.
So if you planted fruit, you plan to eat it, whether you make a cobbler with it, whether you make a smoothie with it, whether you make a casserole with it, but you can't get the seed out of that fruit until you take the meat off that fruit, right? That will leave a seed. Now watch this. When he is resurrected as the first fruits for you and I going forward, because he died as the first fruits, became the seed here. But when he resurrected, he became the first fruits for you and I, the precious wheat harvest. Miriam meets him at the tomb. Miriam says, Rabboni, and she runs to hug him, and he says, stop, woman, don't touch me. Can't touch this. Don't touch me. I have not yet ascended to the Father to fulfill my responsibilities. So the first fruits, say he's the fruit, say he's the fruit, say he's the first fruit.
He's the first.
So who plants him has to take that fruit cover off of him and give the seed back to the earth. So he has to go to the Father who planted him, have the Father use him to do in the tabernacle in heaven what the priests were doing at the tabernacle in the earth. So the Father used him to put his blood on the altar, on the horns of the altar, be the sacrifice. And now, once he's used him, the Father sends the seed back down into the earth. He ate the fruit and dropped the seed. Watch. Messiah had how many Talmudim did he have? 120? He had 120 disciples. Everybody like to say 12. We have 12 that's always talked about. But he had 120 disciples. The Bible declares that after he rose from the dead, he then took 40 days to come back here and talk to his disciples, who he left his word in. Let me show you the importance of first fruits, guys. Now, this red, and I know I'm taking a long time to draw this. I want to do this fresh. I want to cook this fresh. I didn't want to have it all preset for y'all because I want you to follow the storyline with me as we do it. So he put his word while he was in the earth for 33 and a half years into these guys. Some say 12. At the end of the day, there was 120 that ended up in Shavuot, making people see and convert to the faith. So this is a type of his Talmudim. There are 50 days from Ha Bikkurim. This is days. This is the 6th. This is the 16th. And this is the 6th of Sivan. This is the 16th of Nisan. This is 50 days. Can y'all see that? The 16th to the 6th is 50 days. Messiah dies and resurrects on the 16th. He then ascends and comes back to look over the seed he left in the earth so that the Ha Bikkurim could take place. When Messiah comes back, he comes back for 40 of these 50 days. You know what he's doing? He's being the Lord over the harvest. He came back and he taught these all things pertinent to the kingdom. All he did when he was here for those 40 days was taught those that he planted his word in, planted that seed in before he died on the cross, reminding them of everything that he had promised them, how it had come to pass, and what the words were, what the Pesach was for, what Shavuot is for, what everything is for. He did his job. He showed them, taught them, prepared them, gave them wisdom, understanding about all things kingdom. He is lording over that harvest. He is making sure everything he planted in his yard that Yahweh gave him to do, because him and Yahweh had a conversation that said this: I have not lost one you have given me. Now, how many of y'all know I keep calling y'all mud pies walking? I've not lost one, save the one who was scheduled to be lost, and that was the son of perdition. But I've not lost one. I've given them your name. I've given them your word. That's what that red dot inside of him was the word. The word is the seed. Somebody say the word is the seed. Say the word is the seed. I know this might not be exciting to you right now, but I promise you it's a slow cook. You should know me by now. So the word is a seed. Now, when Messiah died, it's going to take 50 days for this seed to come to fruition and manifest. Messiah came back for 40 of those days. Why? Because the disciples recognized who he was. And when they recognized who he was, he now comes back and as Lord of the harvest makes sure that the seed he left in the earth didn't get eaten by birds. He came back for 40 days to make sure he kept watering that word with the word, to make sure that he kept the right amount of sun on that plot. He made sure he kept the weed from growing and choking out what this seed should have. 40 days he came back in that 50-day period of time to make sure that this crop came to fruition. And so what he does now is by this, he stops somewhere between day 1 and day 50. He ends on his 40th day and tells the disciples, stay here, don't leave, and make sure you're at the feast, Ha Bikkurim. Make sure you're there, because this seed from Pesach, Yom Bikkurim, will produce a harvest. So what happens is this seed of 12 or 120 produced, watch this, 3,000 converts. Yom Bikkurim seed causes a harvest of 3,000 in 50 days. This is what it looks like to have him to be the Lord of your harvest. Because when you give him what he wants, he makes sure to take care of it. That's why he said, my Father is the husbandman. Any branch in me that's not bearing fruit, he throws it away. But every branch that bears fruit, he purges it so it can bring forth more fruit. Yom Ha Bikkurim is a manifesting moment and the seed for Hag Bikkurim. One seed, harvest. A few seed, harvest. It's a system. Yahweh doesn't work in addition. He works in multiplication. 50 days later, from the seed of Yeshua in the ground came 3,000 plus us.
Yahweh be praised.
I'm done. I'm done. So when you understand this part, it becomes a little bit interesting as to what Yahweh has done here. Now, here is where it becomes our purpose today. 1 Corinthians chapter number 15, verse 20. 1 Corinthians chapter number 15, verse 20. I'm going to put it on the board for you so you can see it. And I know this may be boring to some of y'all, but I am a bit tired, but I've got strength that I didn't know I could have because I just wanted to pass out. But 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 20, watch this. And we're probably going to read down through verse 23. But in fact, Messiah has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. Now, remember the first Pesach Messiah? Look on the board. Can y'all see the board with me up here? Remember the first Messiah here, the Pesach? He was the first fruits of those who had fallen asleep before him. For as by one man came death, by a man has now come also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all died, so also in Messiah shall all be made alive, but each in his own order. Watch this. Mashiach, the first fruits, then at his coming, those who belong to him. Somebody say, I belong to him. I belongs to him. I belong to him. Now, every time that we realize who Messiah is, what goes on with this particular season, we realize that the Father had a plan. And then he demonstrated how he looks out for us in this very same plan manifesting. Now, to many, this might be too much. And you might say, Apostle, we're supposed to be reading the Torah. You really are. Now, tomorrow, as I come back on to do what we do technically, to teach after all these feasts are over, tonight is the last day of the feast until next Tuesday. And when I come on, we're going to be reading the Torah and making even more of this plain. But here is the charge for you and I today. Our job in this space is to come before the Father and render what he's asked us for. I want to take you to one of the passages in Psalms 126. Psalms 126. I'll keep it on the board so you can read it. Psalms 126. This is the direct correlation to first fruits. Now, when Israel was in Egypt, they were in bondage, weren't they? Hard bondage, right?
Yes, sir.
When Israel was in Egypt, they were in hard bondage, correct?
Correct.
Now, what's that mean? They were in hard bondage. Well, they were subservients. And then we learned last night that late in the midnight hour, what did Yahweh do? Thank you, brother. Say it louder, Brother Jordan. Say it louder, Brother Jordan. He turned it around. So listen to this Psalms 126. Some of y'all never paid attention. Watch this. When Yahweh turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dreamed. Oh, I get chill bumps thinking about this again. When Yahweh turned again, say he turned it around. Y'all didn't get that. Say he turned it around.
He turned it around.
Y'all know they talking about Pesach right here, right? Check your microphones, people. Check your microphones. Make sure your microphone on mute when you get off. Listen, they're talking about Pesach right here. When Yahweh turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dreamed. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. And they said among the heathen that Yahweh has done great things for them. Let me ask y'all a question. Get ready to answer me. Get ready to answer me. Let me ask you a question. So when Israel was in Egypt and they had to suffer through those 10 plagues, did they not know that Yahweh had done something great for Israel? So if you were in bondage for 400 years and Yahweh said, let my people go, and told you to eat some lamb and be dressed to go, and then woke up and you heard in the morning, get out, would your mouth be filled with laughter and your tongue be singing? And when Yahweh told them to now go back into Egypt and borrow money that you ain't going to have to repay, will the people that were the heathens say when Israel leaves, their God had done great things for them? Verse 3 says, then they would say, the people would say, the believers would say, Yahweh hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, Yahweh. Listen, turn again our captivity, Yahweh, as the streams in the south. For 400 years, Israel had sown in tears, y'all. Some of y'all right now with learning this and understanding this are sowing in tears. Some of y'all have been sowing because you know nothing other than to do than what his word says to do. And it can appear to be painful. But watch this. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goes forth and weeps, bearing precious seed, shall without doubt come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. People have always said, Apostle, why would you say that Yahweh wants the first fruit per income stream? Because of what he did and what Moshe wrote in Psalms 126. They didn't bring one man, one sheave. They brought their sheaves based on the income streams they got connected to in the land that Yahweh set them up with. He going forth weeps, but bearing precious seed. She shall doubtlessly come again to the place they planted that seed with rejoicing. Why? Because they've made Yahweh the Lord of their harvest. And if Yahweh is made the Lord of your harvest, you are going to rejoice, because when he's over your harvest, you're not going to have one or two. You're going to have a whole tree full of fruit that's been pruned by the hand of Elohim. Somebody shout, I'm bearing precious seed. I'm bearing precious seed. Say, I'm bearing precious seed. Once you've planted the seed, you will come back again to the place you planted the seed, and without doubt, you will be rejoicing. And then by the time you get to the tabernacle, you're going to be bringing your sheaves with you. See, all of this is connected to the feast of Ha Bikkurim, but it begins with the day of Ha Bikkurim. Yom Bikkurim leads you to Ha Bikkurim. But if you don't honor Yom Bikkurim, the day you're in, then Ha Bikkurim will be fruitless for you. Somebody shout, I'm bearing precious seed and I'm going to comply. Now, I will not lie to you all, and I hate to be this way with you all from the West Coast, but I gave you all I got. I'm going to have to let this ride because I can feel my throat and my breathing are getting to the point where, though I want to keep carrying this message on with you all and sharing with you all like we talked, I'll do it tomorrow. But tonight I need you to remember why you're here. You're here to honor Yom Bikkurim so that you can have Hag Bikkurim. Your first fruits is a current that Yahweh put us in from Pesach to Shavuot to Sukkah, and then it starts over again. Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkah. And in that, Yahweh commands the blessings in your lives in ways and atmospheres you hadn't even considered. And though they will be mandatory for you to go through, he'll have already set them up, planning and making tables before you in the presence of your enemies. Your enemy will come in you one way. They're going to have to leave 7 ways. Why? Because you let Yahweh become the Lord of your harvest. So when he told them that when you come into the land, which I have given you, I promised to Abraham, and you come into that land, I'm going to give you houses you didn't build. I'm going to give you harvests. I'm going to give you orchards you didn't plant. I'm going to give you vineyards you didn't plant. I'm going to give you fields of wheat and corn that you didn't plant. And each one of those issues, if they become your income stream, you will give me a sheaf of that harvest. See, you can't say, okay, well, I'm gonna harvest the corn, I'm gonna harvest the figs and the corn, and they're all separate harvests. Yahweh wants you to tell him, you gave me this. You said you want the first. I'm going to give you the first. And you said, if I give you the first, you'll be the Lord of my harvest. You'll make sure that the gopher won't come and eat it. You'll make sure that the rabbits won't come underground and eat it. You'll make sure that there won't be anybody who is villainous to try and take it and strip it and rip it. You will make sure that everything is fine. And this is the best fruit, hydrated with all the necessary nutrients and in volume. Yahweh, I give you my first fruits over my business. I give you my first fruits over my startup business. I give you my first fruits over my part-time job. I give you my first fruits over my full-time job with all the benefits and my golden parachute. I want you to be the Lord of anything that comes in to me as a stream of sustenance. I make you the Lord of my harvest. I want you to close your eyes, and even if you might feel weird about it, say, Yahweh, I make you the Lord of my harvest.
Yahweh, I make you the Lord of Yahweh, I make you the Lord of my harvest.
You live in a voice-activated kingdom, people. When you regurgitate his word, you cause Ruach HaKodesh to hasten to you to perform it. Many of us have not obeyed because we thought the task was too daunting. And we knew our responsibilities, being good, responsible people. Yahweh's not asking for your mortgage payment. Yahweh's not asking for your car note. Yahweh is not asking for your insurance, your life insurance, your health insurance. He's not asking for your 401k. He's not asking for your Roth IRA. Yahweh is asking for your obedience. He already knows you got need of all of those items. He wants to see if you know he gave you those items. Nobody can make your portfolio grow like he can. Nobody can make you add value to your home like Yahweh can. Nobody can make your car run for more years than you ever thought it could and still be the excellent item you purchased Only Yahweh can do that. But will we trust him with what we have the way he says, so he can let the kingdom's commonwealth manifest in our lives? This is an issue by faith. Right now, this is your time. Get your first fruits in. There's an old saying, you can take people to the water, but you can't make them drink. There's a lot of things we can do. And there's a lot of things we know to do. But sometimes we don't do it because we're thinking, trust Yahweh. Give him what he wants. He promises to supply every one of your need. But you're never going to know that. We are never going to know that unless we stop with our fear, our timidity about what he's requesting. I mean, he did make the earth that we're on. I think he knows when we should sow and what we should sow to make the earth in the current he puts us in produce for us. Right now, while you're here on the platform, we are here to now collect the first fruits. Your lamb. Yahweh's required a lamb. Oil, wine, and flour. Your lamb is $330. The oil, wine, and flour combined is $120. Both of these items make a total for your first fruits offering of $450 per your income streams. Some of you want your business to take off like you want to take off. You're going to need to trust him right now. Now, if you're not producing income in there, but you have faith that you will, might be a good time to exercise your faith. If you designed it and you've seen it and you've dreamed it to be your income stream, it might not be flourishing where you need it to be. But once you get that harvest, Yahweh wants you to give him the first fruits. Make that your plan. But you're going to have to start with a seed in order to get the harvest. And he tells you exactly what to sow. Right now, go to vwministries.com. If you're on Clubhouse, go into Clubhouse, hit my profile. At the bottom of my profile is a contributions tab that links you directly to the ministry. You can contribute there in Clubhouse, or go again to vwministries.com. Those of you who have your Cash App, you do your Zelle, you do your Venmo, however you get your tithing in, get your first fruits per income stream in. Some of you might say, well, Apostle, I just really found out about this 4 months ago. Fine. He knows that. Remember this. Once you turn to him with your whole heart, not rending your garment, but rending your heart, he will hear you, honor you, and then who knows what he will do. Maybe he'll leave behind him a blessing, even a meat offering and a drink offering as he's prescribed. So you, now that your heart's turned to him, can have him governing your life. This is a matter of earnest and sincere faith, not a scam. This is nothing man has made up. This is everything Yahweh engineered for the commonwealth of the believers in the earth, his kingdom. All this stuff we doing in church, please be leery. If it ain't found in that word, you be conscious. Today, get your seed in now. That's why you're here. We're not here to plead you. We ain't begging you for nothing. You know what the word says. We have this ceremony for those who desire by lifestyle to comply. But those of you too who have been around for a very long time and still coming up with the same exact excuse, I ain't got it, Yahweh, I did. The reason we don't is because we've mishandled what he's rendered us previously. That's why he says, I gave you the former rain. I gave it to you moderately to see how you would handle it. Well, I had my house, I had my car, I had my insurance, I have health issues. Yahweh knows all of that. He wants to see if we are to him, if he is to us the most important thing. He already knows what you got need of. He just needs to know you have need of him. The day of Yom Ha Bikkurim is upon us. Get your seed in. Do that now. Once you've done that for housekeeping's sake, there will be a register sent We're going to pray over the offering. But for those who are still getting their offering in from the other time zones and those who've texted me to say they're going to be getting out late, once we get all of the register, there's no more movement on our printers of those who've contributed. We will then bring all those back together for a receipt before the day is over, and we will wave them before Yahweh. That service will be probably about 11 a.m. tomorrow, just to make sure everybody is intact and everybody's offering is in. For those of you who are saying, well, I wasn't prepared, I don't got it, give Yahweh your best. You believe it, you're convicted, give him your best, and then make a vow to him that you'll have it paid in 30 days. I won't hound you. Nobody in our ministry will hound you. That's between you and Yahweh. But remember, he sees it. He knows it. That's not our job. We ain't got nothing to do with that. We're just the actual storehouse that you bring it to. He sees who's done it. We waive it on your behalf, that you are accepted. That's the instruction. Now, I don't want to say that again because that sounded like I said that in some kind of a very, very mean way. I just want to make sure you understand what he says in Leviticus 23, and you look for yourself. And we're going to close this out in prayer. Leviticus 23, verses 9 through 11. I'll start at 10. Speak to the children of Israel, saying to them, when you come into the land which I have given unto you, that you shall reap the harvest thereof. Then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and the wave of, and you shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Shabbat. That's when the priest shall wave it. Again, he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Shabbat. The priest shall wave it. All right, everybody, get your lamb, get your first fruits in, and we'll be looking to come back again tomorrow at about 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be waving that offering. As long as your name, as long as your receipt has doing it electronically. This is the beautiful thing about this. You don't have to come with an envelope you have to fill out. No, just go do the electronic that you need to do. Get it sent in by Zelle, Venmo, whatever you do, however you've been doing it, get it in, make it your business. Go to vwjministries.com, lower right hand of the screen, yellow button. If you are on Clubhouse, hit the profile of mine, go down to the link at the bottom of the page, and it will give you a connection to the ministry link so that you can make your contributions there. You got the Cash App, VWJ3657. Whatever means you've been using, do what you do. I'll pray for you now. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to share your word about Ha Bikkurim, Yom Bikkurim, helping us to understand the process of what you do. You do not do anything without your process. As long as the earth remains, there will always be seed time and harvest. Well, Yahweh, we wait here. We seed tonight in your instructions, in your time, in your way, in your space. And we're asking you today to hear our hearts, hear our minds, and grace us with your spirit for the purpose of honoring you in truth. This is the day, Yahweh, that you have made. It is our will to rejoice in it. We who sow in tears, we do bear such precious seed. And we know that we shall return to the same place of that seed with great rejoicing. We trust you for this that you have promised, because you've never lied and you never can. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen. West Coast, you're on. Get your seed in. Those of you on the East Coast who didn't get it done earlier, get it done now. Anywhere else on the globe, make sure you get it in. All right? We are not babysitting for you. You are on an honor system with Elohim. My job is to teach you what his word says. It's up to you to comply. This ain't no game. This is a lifestyle. Somebody say this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle, and I completely confirm and comply with it. Well, Zion, we're going to be seeing you guys early or tomorrow. I'll be popping up pretty much all day tomorrow because I'm going to be off. You're still going to be off before this. And on the East Coast, it is until, on the East Coast until sundown tomorrow. We're still in Ha Bikkurim. So get your seat in. I'll try and elongate it as long as I can to make sure that we get all the seed in so that those who have done what they need to do to get it in can get it in, and we can waive that on your behalf per your income streams. Zion, this is the time you have an act and a walk of faith. It's been a joy talking with you and sharing with you. Yahweh is wanting you to do what he's always required of us to make his kingdom shine in the earth. And we bless him for that day. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, his kingdom.
Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean